Hello all. In this lecture we will be studying about the size of an earthquake, in fact the concept of the earthquake intensity and the magnitude of an earthquake. So let's start this discussion. The first scientific study of the effects of the great earthquake was conducted by an Irishman, Robert Mallet, and who was also recognized as the first true seismologist. In his assessment of the effects of an earthquake in southern Italy, this one, he was using the oldest instruments in the world, which means his own observations, his eyes, a compass, and a measuring stick. So, with these oldest instruments, he was able to actually come up with a very efficient way of estimating the size of an earthquake. So what he did is that he made a detailed map and tabulation of the felt reports and damage to different buildings and geological movements. So he mapped all of the observations from that particular earthquake, and he mapped to come up with an idea which will basically later become a very central concept in actually identifying the size of an earthquake. So what he did is that he was able to measure the strength and distribution of earthquake ground motion in this manner. That what he did is that let's say that, let me go here, okay, on top. Let's say that this is the total area which he was investigating, which is damaged as a result of an earthquake. So he basically took recordings and observations at different points on that, you can say, area, and he noted down all the observations, what level of damage is being experienced, and what is the other effects of that earthquake. Based on that observations, he gave a number to each of the points. So for example, he said, okay, from 1 to 4 I will give the damage intensity, I will classify it from 1 to 4 and assign to each of the points at which I took my readings. So let's say he give this number as 2, this is maybe 3, maybe here 1, or similarly maybe this one also 2 or 3. So ultimately what he did is that when you join the points having the same number, you will get the contours or points, all the points on that curve will be having the same observation of damage. If you join 2 with 2, maybe 1 with 1, also 4 with 4, you will get all of these lines, and those lines are called isoseismal lines. Isoseismal lines, as the name indicates, that they are the ones, these lines have experienced the same level of seismicity or same level of damage from one particular earthquake. So these isoseismal lines or contours, these ones are the lines of equal damage or equal intensity. So using these lines, he was also able to determine the center of the earthquake shaking, which is the epicenter. All the maps nowadays which show all of these lines are called isoseismal maps, and one of the example is shown here. In 1811, for this particular earthquake, this map shows the intensity of an earthquake on a scale which is called MMI scale. We will discuss that in later part of this lecture, but this scale basically classifies the intensity from 1 to 12, and you can see here that all of these points, for example 10, 11, similarly 7, 8, 6, 7, all 5. So all of these numbers are basically indicating the intensity observed at that particular point. If you join all those points having the same intensity level based on the observation, you will get isoseismal lines. And the center of those lines, basically all of the lines will have a center, and at that center you will have the highest number. somewhere here, and that center will be the epicenter of the earthquake. So based on this simple idea, you will be able to locate the epicenter also. So intensity is measured by the means of the degree of damage to structures of human origin, the amount of disturbances to the surface of the ground, and the extent of animal and human reaction to the shaking. And it is not by measuring the ground motion with instruments. So intensity is depending on the degree of damage or the level of experience or disturbance experienced by the actual you can say ground motion and the people. It is not something which is directly measured as a record and then record can give you the intensity. Although you can still base your definition of intensity, you can base it on some recording or parameter which is obtained from a ground motion recording, but mostly it is just a measure of the degree of damage to structures and other you can say infrastructural facilities and the ground surface itself. So Mallet used 4 degrees of intensity, 1 to 4. He classified the damage level into 4 you can say levels. So this was his intensity scale which he used to prepare the isoseismal map. The patterns of the isoseismal maps, the lines, also indicated to Mallet the rate at which the shaking effects diminish with distance. So he can, you can say, guess about how fast or how slow the damage effects are being reduced as we go away from the center. And this will give him an estimate of the relative size of the earthquake. If the earthquake is strong or bigger size, the damage will be experienced up to a very far off place. But if it is low, then it will just quickly diminish after a certain distance. So we know that the seismic waves will lose their energy as the distance increase. So the waves which are experienced by the structure which is located at a far off place may not be able to have any damage to a structure, but if the structure is located here close to the actual source, it will experience a strong shaking. So the intensity is a relative measure. It will be less for this structure, it will be more for this structure. It depends on the size of the earthquake also, the size of the rupture also, as well as the distance from source to the site also. In general, as you move away from the source, the damage will reduce, the shaking will reduce, or in fact the felt intensity will reduce. So there are different scales which classify the ground shakings into different levels, or those are called the intensity scales. So here you can see the isoseismal lines for one particular earthquake which is located somewhere here in this region, because here is the most damage which is observed and the intensity is also high. A high number is here, 7 to 8, 6 to 7 in fact. Here also you have 8 to 11. So somewhere here you have the epicenter. This is for 1971 San Fernando earthquake in California, and you can see here that as you move away from the epicenter, the intensity in general is reducing to a very low number, maybe 1 to 4 or 2 to 4. So the first intensity scale of modern times was developed by Rossi, and it is called the Rossi-Forel intensity. It classifies the ground shaking intensity into 1 to 10, indicated by these Roman numbers 1 to 10. So 1 means an earthquake with very low intensity and 10 means the highest intensity. A more refined scale with 12 values was constructed in 1902 by an Italian seismologist, Mercalli, and this scale was called the Mercalli intensity scale. A modified version of it was called the modified Mercalli intensity scale, was developed later, and now it is still in use, MMI scale, modified Mercalli intensity scale. Similarly, there are some other intensity scales also. For example, JMA, which is the Japanese intensity scale. Similarly, the MSK scale, Central and Eastern European countries, and also some other scales, for example, Chinese scale, and some other scales are also in use, which classify the earthquake into different intensity levels. Another example, this isoseismal lines map, basically isoseismal map of this 1912 Mandalay earthquake. It is developed based on this definition of intensity, Rossiforel intensity, and it is from, you can see here, uh, this is the epicenter, and the highest intensity is experienced here, and as you are going away from that, the intensity reduced to maybe 2 or 3. This is a quick comparison. The modified Mercalli intensity is from 1 to 12 here, and Rossiforel is 1 to 10, GMA is 1 to 7, and similarly some other intensity scales are there, MSK or some other ones. So this is a quick comparison. An earthquake which is classified according to MMI scale, which is classified as number 8, it may be somewhere in between 8 and 9 in the Rossiforel, and also in GMA it may be number 5, and in MSK it may be 8 also. So based on the descriptions of damage which are defined by different intensity scales, you can roughly plot this comparison. You can come up with such kind of a comparison between different scales, that whatever damage is expected during an MMI scale 8 earthquake, the same damage will be for an earthquake somewhere between 8 and 9 in the Rossiforel. Similarly, for Japanese intensity scale, the same damage will correspond to an earthquake with intensity number 5. So, an example is shown here. This is the instrumental intensity. The GMA intensity scale is based on instrumental records. So it is not some descriptive damage which is basically giving you the GMA number for intensity. The GMA intensity scale is based on the actual recordings of ground motion, and those recordings can be analyzed to finally come up with one intensity at each particular seismic station. So from 1 to 7 you can see here that this particular earthquake, 2000 Totori earthquake, you can see here that this is the intensity shown by different colors. The epicenter is in this region because you can see the highest intensity is experienced in this range, and then as you are moving away from that, you can say epicenter, the intensity is reducing. So here in this region the intensity is just 1, and in this region maybe 2 or 3, but as you are moving, you can say, towards the epicenter, the intensity is increasing. The Chinese intensity scale even gives the, you can say, the description of damage as well as pictures also, which you can say which can be used to record observations and then assign a particular intensity at a particular observation site. So for example, although the MMI scale is the most commonly used scale, modified Mercalli intensity, but different individual countries have their own scales also. So see here the Chinese version, that an earthquake which is classified as the MMI scale number 2 is somewhere 1 to 2 according to Chinese scale, and the description is that it is not even felt by most of the people. It is only recorded by some sensitive recording stations or seismographs. Similarly, some other descriptions you can see, an MMI of 5 means the Chinese classification will give it a number equal to 6, and the observation would be that things indoor fall over. So from 5 onwards, MMI 5 onwards, you will start having structural damage. So let's directly go to maybe number 8. So you have houses everywhere collapse. So number 9 means most houses damaged heavily or collapsed already. So based on the observation of damage, the MMI can be assigned to a particular observation point, or corresponding Chinese classification is also given. For MMI scale, just look at these descriptions. For example, MMI number 1 means not felt, or except rarely under especially favorable circumstances, it is just felt. So number 2 means felt indoors by few, especially on upper floors, because upper floors of the building will shake more because of the dynamics of the structure itself, and therefore it is more chance that the upper floor people will experience a very low shaking level. Just check this number 7, frightened all, general alarm, and then there is a detailed description of what number 7 means. Number 8, fright general, alarm approaches panic. Number 9, panic general. Similarly, you have 10, 11 and 12. 12 means damage total, physically, practically all works of construction damaged greatly or destroyed. So from 1 to 12, this is the range of the MMI scale. This intensity of an earthquake, this parameter is relative. It depends on the source to site distance. So it may not be the complete picture of the size of an earthquake. The size of an earthquake can be more accurately described by the amount of energy release during that particular earthquake. So if the magnitudes of earthquakes are to be compared worldwide, a measure is needed that do not depend on the density of population and type of construction. All of those relative parameters which affect the damage and therefore intensity. So in order to develop a worldwide unified parameter or a measure to calculate the size of an earthquake, the very first attempts are done by Professor Kiyowadaty and Professor Charles Richter. In 1931, they developed a quantitative scale by these two researchers. First it was developed by Kiyowadaty, and then later it was developed by Charles Richter also in California. They defined that scale or magnitude of an earthquake in this manner. They say that the magnitude of an earthquake is the logarithm of base 10 of the maximum seismic wave amplitude in micrometers recorded on this standard seismograph, the standard Wood-Anderson short period seismograph, at a distance of 100 km from the earthquake epicenter. So the definition of magnitude M is this, that for example, if you have this is the surface, and here let's say that this is the epicenter on the surface. So let's say this is the epicenter, and at a distance of 100 km from that epicenter, let's say you have a recording station here at this location. So this is 100 km, and that recording station is this standard Wood-Anderson short period seismograph at 100 km. So the recording of that particular seismograph, let's say it records this shaking, and that is the ground displacement versus time. The peak number of that displacement in micrometers, if you take the log of that number, log base 10 of this number in micrometer, then the resulting number you will get, let's call it the magnitude of an earthquake. So let's say that it record a ground shaking of equal to, let's say, peak number is 10 millimeter. So let's convert that 10 millimeter into micrometers. So 10 millimeter will be 10 raised to power 4 micrometers. So if we take the log base 10 of this 10 raised to power 4, log of 10 raised to power 4, you will get 4. So this 4 is the magnitude of this earthquake. So that's how the magnitude of the earthquake was defined. That I repeat again, that you have an epicenter at a distance equal to 100 kilometer. If you have a particular standard seismograph of this type, that seismograph will give you a recording, and that recording, the peak number can be picked in micrometers. The log base 10 of that number will be the magnitude of this earthquake. So this was later called as the Richter magnitude scale, and you can now guess that this definition is logarithmic. So which means that if the peak number was 10 raised to power 5 micrometer, then the magnitude was 5. So it means that every time the magnitude goes up by 1 unit, the amplitude of the ground waves increase by 10 times. Because 10 raised to power 4, if you take 10 times of that number, it will be 10 raised to power 5. So every time the magnitude increased by 1 unit, the displacement, the peak displacement of ground increased by 10 times. So a magnitude 5 earthquake will have 10 times more peak displacement of ground compared to magnitude 4 earthquake. Similarly, a magnitude 6 will produce a ground shaking which will be 100 times more than magnitude 4, because 10 times for 5 and then 10 times for 6. So this is the definition of earthquake magnitude, the Richter magnitude scale. So this is the original paper in which the Richter gave this idea, and he defined this. This is the same definition. The magnitude of any shock is taken as the log of the maximum trace amplitude expressed in microns, with which the standard short period torsion seismometer, which is the same one, Wood-Anderson one, would register that shock at an epicentral distance of 100 kilometers. So this is the definition of Richter magnitude scale. But now we know already that it is very difficult that for all the earthquakes you have the same seismometer installed at 100 kilometer distance. So then Richter gave these kind of conversions which can convert the peak number of the recording recorded at one distance into recorded at another distance. So for example, look at this nomograph here. You have the distance here, and also you have the amplitude in millimeters here. So if you know the distance from s minus p seconds, we have discussed that in previous session, and we have the peak amplitude in millimeters. If we join these 2 points for one particular earthquake, we can get the magnitude. So this graph will automatically convert, and it is based on that definition of Richter magnitude scale. So see here, since the distance from source to site and the TSP, the time distance between P arrival and S arrival, they are interconvertible, so therefore there is just one line for both of them. If you have distance, you can go to the left of that line, and if you have a TSP, go to the right side. So you need to have any one of these two, and the peak amplitude, this number recorded, let's say it is 23 millimeter. So just join 23 with T minus S is what, 20, maybe 25 seconds. So you can just go this point, 25 second can be joined by 23 millimeter, and you will get this magnitude 5 or maybe 5.5, that magnitude. So even if you don't have that standard seismograph installed at 100 kilometers, this kind of graph can convert that into any distance. So for example, let's join 100 kilometer and 10 millimeters, which we used in the previous slide. So this is 10 millimeter, this is 100 kilometer. If you join them, you will get magnitude 4 exactly. So this graph is made from the same definition of the Richter magnitude scale. So now you can use any distance, not 100, any distance, and if you know the peak number, then you can just join them, and then the magnitude you can calculate from the middle line. At first, the scale was intended to deal with Californian earthquakes only, but with the cooperation of Professor Benno Gutenberg, the scale was adapted to enable earthquakes to be classified worldwide. So this Richter magnitude scale is now also called the local magnitude scale, is represented by ML. L is for local. So this was the very first definition of earthquake magnitude, and it is still in use. At the present time, now there are several magnitude scales available. The most used magnitude scales are surface wave magnitude MS, it has a different definition, body wave magnitude MB, and also the moment magnitude scale. MS is the worldwide scale determined from the maximum amplitude of Rayleigh waves at the period of about 20 seconds, between you can say 18 second and 22 second, on a standard long period seismograph, which is having a natural time period of 15 seconds. It is the most widely used magnitude scale for large damaging shallow earthquakes less than 70 kilometer deep. I mean, the hypocenter is located less than 70 kilometers. So this is based on the Rayleigh waves, the maximum amplitude of Rayleigh waves with a period of about 20 seconds. It was developed in 1950s by the same researchers who developed the Richter magnitude scale, and the idea was to improve the resolution on larger earthquakes, because the Richter magnitude scale was not able to accurately give the size of the larger earthquakes. Another scale which is being used is MB, the body wave magnitude. It is the worldwide scale determined from the maximum amplitude of the first few cycles of the P wave motion observed on the vertical component of seismogram. So it is based on the P waves and also their vertical component. The waves may typically have a period of about 1 second. It is widely used for characterizing deep earthquakes. So where MS is good for shallow earthquakes, MB is for deep earthquakes. So the reason for the development of these other scales after the Richter scale was that the most magnitude scales, including the Richter scale, they saturate or stop increasing with increasing earthquake size. The reason is that each magnitude scale is determined using a seismic wave of a particular period and wavelength. So for example, the Richter scale is based on the peak number during the whole seismic recording. The micrometers, if you convert them into micrometers, take the log base 10, you get the magnitude. Some scale like body wave magnitude scale is based on some other definition, but it is still using the instrumental record. Similarly, you can see that the here MS is based on Rayleigh waves, and it is also using the same record, but only considering Rayleigh waves and based its definition on that. So the problem is that at a certain level, if you increase the intensity of an earthquake, if the intensity is increased beyond a certain level, the amplitude of the recording doesn't increase with the increase in the energy release of an earthquake. So as the earthquake source, size and energy release increase, the amplitude doesn't increase by the same proportion. So if we base our definition of the earthquake magnitude based on the instrumental recording, it will be just enough up to a certain level of earthquake, and beyond that the recording will not be able to give the actual real, you can say, size of an earthquake. So here you can see that different earthquake magnitudes on y-axis, they just saturate as the earthquake magnitude increase from a certain number. So for example, after the earthquake magnitude more than 7 onwards, most of the earthquake, the magnitude scales, they will just saturate and give the same as the peak number. So MB will saturate at equal to magnitude 6. So in an earthquake, which is, although the energy, seismic energies keep on increasing as we move on the x-axis, but the magnitude reported by the MB scale will be only 6. It will be just become constant after that. So it will just saturate after that. So MB will not be able to accurately tell the size of earthquakes which have a magnitude more than 7 maybe, or 6. Similarly, ML, the local magnitude scale or the Richter scale will saturate after maybe 6.5 or 7. Some MS and MGMA can go more than that, but ultimately all will saturate. And the reason is same, that if you base your definition on the instrumental record, the peak number of the seismic wave will not increase with increasing the energy release beyond a certain level of earthquake. So because of this reason, we should base our definition of magnitude on the amount of energy released during an earthquake. And that's what this moment magnitude scale MW does. It is a more reliable and robust magnitude scale MW, and it is introduced in 1979, and it is based on the seismic moment. Seismic moment is a measure of the actual amount of energy release during that earthquake, and it is calculated from the dimensions of the slip fault. So MW is a function of M naught, and all of those constants are basically to just make it compatible with the previous scales, but M naught is the primary input required to calculate the moment magnitude of an earthquake, and M naught is defined as the seismic moment, and it is calculated using this expression or using this expression. Simply mu here is the shear modulus of the rock, A is the fault rupture area, and D is the average dislocation or slip. It is the relative movement between the opposite sides of the fault. So it means A and D are the rupture characteristics, and mu is the shear modulus of the rock, typically 30 gigapascal. So which means that now if you know the rupture area and the slip, you can calculate the actual amount of energy release, and that can be converted to a parameter of the size of an earthquake, which is called the moment magnitude scale. So this can also be equal to this number, where ES is the radiated seismic energy and D is the stress drop. So the definition of the definition based on A and D allows M naught to be derived from the geological faulting parameters that can be easily observed in the field or large surface rupturing earthquakes. So basically, after an earthquake, you have to calculate the actual rupture area, and those will require the geological study and the actual slip also. Then you will be able to calculate MW. The other definition based on the radiated seismic energy, that allows M naught to be derived from the seismological measurements. So that is relatively easy to calculate, but it will still take more time compared to calculating ML. So that's why the definition of magnitudes which are based on the instrumental records, for example ML, MS or MB, those will be readily available after an earthquake on most of the major seismic databases or global organizations which are recording the actual ground motions. But MW, the calculation of that will take some time, So the very first magnitude which is recorded, and you can say also informed through media also, most of the time it is the Richter magnitude scale, ML. Although we know that now it is replaced by a more reliable and robust magnitude scale, and that is MW, the moment magnitude scale. So here you can see that for this M7.3 Landers earthquake, this is the surface, and here you have the slip which is varying from 0 to maybe 6 or 7 meters. So you can see here that all of the area which participated in rupture, this is the ruptured area A, and the average slip D will be calculated from because slip is not constant along the rupture area, so you may use an average slip and then multiply with mu value, which is the shear modulus here, and then you can calculate the m naught seismic moment, and then you can also calculate the moment magnitude. So in this graph, the amount of energy release on y-axis is shown as an equivalent moment magnitude, because m is also the function of m naught, and m naught is the amount of energy release. So the energy is shown here as a function of the moment magnitude. So this is a very good example to give you an idea about what amount of energy is released for what magnitude earthquake. So this scale is logarithmic, so you just have to understand that this 1 unit increase on y-axis is basically 10 time increase in amount of energy. So a lightning bolt will have this much energy, and it will be just equivalent to a magnitude of maybe 3.2 or 3.3 magnitude moment magnitude earthquake. Similarly, an average tornado will be equivalent to somewhere maybe 4.5 magnitude earthquake. The energy of the Hiroshima atomic bomb was equivalent to the energy released during a magnitude 6 earthquake. Similarly, you can keep on going and see all of these examples to give you an idea about the amount of energy release. The Chile earthquake 1960, which is uh, the the highest earthquake recorded up to now, the highest magnitude earthquake, magnitude 9.5 here, was having more energy compared to world's largest nuclear explosion, or compared to the highest possible hurricane, etc. So please note down that this line, the y-axis here is exponential. Each unit on y-axis is 10 time increase. So if I expand these 2 points, you can say this point from here up to that point, if I expand that and make the scale linear, in that linear scale, the amount of energy released for different magnitudes will look like this. So the Chile earthquake is not just which has a magnitude 9.5, is not just more than another earthquake with magnitude 9.2. Since the amount of energy release is increasing 10 times with each unit, so it is far more, you can say the energy release is far more compared to 9.2. So just to give you an idea about this, and then we will end this session here, that the total seismic energy E released during an earthquake is often estimated by the following nonlinear relationship. This is for MS, but this is also true for MW also. That log of the total seismic energy is a function of the magnitude. So if you put this magnitude, let's say 5, and calculate the energy by taking anti-log and then calculate E, and then again put M equal to 6 and again calculate energy, you will see that each unit change in the magnitude will correspond to a 32-fold increase in the earthquake energy. So the intensity of the shaking or the amplitude of the displacement is increasing 10 times, but the amount of energy is increasing 32 times for each of the unit increase in magnitude. So I repeat here that for peak amplitude or peak shaking, I can say, increase 10 times with each unit increase in the amplitude. But the amount of energy increased 32 times for 1 unit increase in the magnitude. So the increase is exponential. It is exponential, it is not linear. So if the energy of magnitude 5 is represented by this small green block, the magnitude 6 will be, if you talk about the peak shaking intensity, then it will be 10 times more than that. If you talk about the energy release, then it will be 32 times more than that, represented by this yellow box. And if you make one step more, I mean 6 to 7, it will be increased to this much. And from 7 to 8, it will be 10 times in shaking or 32 times in energy, it will be this much. So now compared with magnitude 8 and magnitude 6, maybe a huge difference because it is increasing exponentially. So please keep that the proportion or that context in mind also when you think about different magnitudes. So magnitude 6 is, you can say, 100 times smaller than magnitude 8 if you talk about peak shaking. So I will end this session here and I will see you in the next session. Till then, stay safe and thank you.